All right, well, you heard the crowd applause, so you know it's time for Dave the IT guy. And let me just tell you that this is our end of the year episode. I'm Dave, he's Jason. This
Yep.
is it. Dave the IT guy is ending tonight. So after this one, you're still going to find me on Twitter and on Facebook and other places. But the Dave the IT guy show, as it is ending now. And I'm going to take this thing into more of a consumer products review thing and just kind of have fun with gadgets and things so that I can keep playing with stuff. But the real new security stuff is going to be with Jason. And I'm going to let Jason throw out the name. We've decided on a show name. So Jason, let the world know what's coming next.
All right. Well, the name of the show that we decided on was Bring Your Own Security, BYOS.
BYOS. Yeah, bring your own
Yes.
shit. Well, anyway, yeah, it's gonna be awesome. We're gonna premiere coming up here the first week of January 2018. We're gonna be a
Yep.
weekly show, 1 hour. Um, Working on domain name, but looks like bringyourown.security.net is where you're gonna find us.
hmm
Twitter is already reserved at BYOS Radio. So go save it, go favorite it, go tweet us, do something. Um, Jason, why don't you talk a little bit about the format? Like, this series, for the people that's been listening to me for the last almost 2 years, know that I don't do many interviews on this particular series. I've done some at events, places where I get to meet really high powered people. And now that I've made those contacts, I really haven't taken the time to exploit that and bring those people on air. But why don't you talk a little bit about some of the ideas that we are throwing out for next year and for this new show?
Yeah, that's definitely an one-point statement. So, um, one of the things we're looking at is talking to vendors that are out here that are hot, that are actually doing things, that have nice products. And between me and you, I know we all have ran into vendors and we've tried things and we've made contacts that way. So I think it would be good to expose um, products and such that we feel that are pretty decent products to anybody that's interested.
Right on. And I know that Jason and I have also talked about, not just product reps, and this isn't going to be 60 minutes of selling you stuff, right? I don't know yet, and we're still working out the format. But some of these, many of these episodes that have the speakers and the guests, we're going to give them just 15 or 20 minutes of our 60, or maybe we give them 30. I don't know. But it's the whole idea is to kind of let you know what's out there, and then maybe Jason and I can talk about, well, we did use that product and it was great, or maybe it wasn't so great, or give you some ideas of how you can use it. But we're also going to bring people on that are doers, not just people selling you something or telling you how great their stuff is, but
Yep.
we're going to bring out CIOs, CISOs, CEOs, and all the other
hmm
alphabet soups that I can think of. But
Yep.
and just day-to-day techs. They don't have to have a title, but people
Right.
that are in the field putting the security to work, man. So I'm excited, man. This is going to be a great new year for us to really bring out the best in people.
Yeah, it's going to be good to get in people's heads and really find out, what makes them tick. Who are they? What do they do? Um, what keeps them up at night? You know, what is their spirit animal? Things
That's right.
you could just ask many things, but yeah, that's a few things
Yeah, I mean the
you could
important
think of.
stuff: 5 hour energy drink, or some other thing. What keeps them
Hmm.
awake
Yeah,
literally at
Coke or
night
Sprite.
when they're working late? Plus what keeps them from going to sleep. But and one of the things that Jason brought when he and I first hooked up about this show was, right now Dave the IT guy is for fun, right? I'm out there just blabbing about crap that interests me and things like that. But there's gonna be real value starting with our new show, Bring Your Own Security, because we're working to make sure that certain entities that offer certifications like ISC2 and CompTIA and whoever else we can come up with that we can work with and get accredited in whatever word that means for them, so
Yeah.
that we can you can have value, earn some CEUs for listening to us.
Yep. And even if we're not accredited, I mean, we can still, advertise the fact that we do offer these as CPEs. You just have to, confer with your organization.
Right on. So there's a lot of great stuff coming. 2018 for us, and hopefully for all of you is going to be awesome. Many of the same media that carries this show will still carry us. We will have a short delay on iHeartRadio because with the new episode, we have to record 4 episodes before we can come back live there. But you won't miss us, right? Because we're going to record all of our episodes in real time, and then once we have 4 of them spooled up, we'll show up in the iHeartRadio feed again under the new one, and then you can just go back and listen to the first 4 and get caught up. So you
Yep.
won't miss us. But all the other places, iTunes, Stitcher. Um, Dang, who am I missing? There's
Hmm.
Podcasty,
Podomatic. It's
yeah,
all over the place.
Podomatic, iTunes, Stitcher,
Podcast
TuneIn,
Republic.
yeah, Podcast Republic, TuneIn. I think I said iTunes already, but I'll say it again. So yeah, any place that you would normally find a podcast, we're gonna be there. The ones that's kind of unique for us is having access to the iHeartRadio network. So you'll find us everywhere, and we're going to certainly promote ourselves. So if you can't find us, that's only because you didn't try. So, so we're there. So the rest of this particular episode, for however long it's going to last, was Jason and I decided to just kind of freestyle and talk about the things about 2017 that were interesting to us in some way or another, what we thought was a big deal, what we thought we really screwed the pooch on, maybe professionally or personally, and what we see that the industry maybe screwed the pooch on, and then what might be coming down the pike at us next year that we better all prepare for. So, um, we haven't vetted this show out very well as far as like we wanted to really, or at least I wanted to. I didn't tell Jason that, but I wanted to just kind of throw him on the spot a little bit and do the same for myself even, and just come up with like what's topical. So I'm gonna let Jason start it off. So and if I tongue tie you, that's okay. But so Jason, in 2017, let's start with this. What was the one, if there is just one, or one type of event that you can look back at and say, man, that was a real industry changer? And I think I know where you're going to go, but let's see if we're on the same page.
Well, I don't know about it being an industry changer, but there were things like WannaCry, Petya, um, uh, WikiLeaks had the CIA Vault 7. There was Cloudbleed. Um, there was definitely a lot of things that had a lot of people scurrying over the year. Um, and I'm one included in that, and I'm pretty sure you were, Dave.
Yep. Well, and you went exactly where I figured you was going to go. I mean, I think the ransomwares of 2017 were definitely eye openers to
Yeah,
everyone
they
that
were on
touches a
point, man.
computer.
They were on point.
Yeah, I know that I'm in the healthcare field, and wow, man, as soon as one of our, I don't want to call them sister hospitals, but a loose affiliated hospital in Kentucky, they got hit hard, and their backups were not tested and confirmed, and they ultimately paid $27,000 to get their stuff back. And
Mm.
oddly, they commented about how great the customer service of the hackers were because within just like 2 hours of their Bitcoin being confirmed in the wallet that they sent it to, their key was sent to them for them to decrypt their stuff. So
Oh,
unreal. So yeah, it's a, ransomware was crazy this year. That would be the one thing to me that I think really got the people who are not IT people, like the CEOs and the whatever the leaders that normally barely log into a computer on their own. It got their attention because now they felt the pain of hell. I can't even turn on my computer because it's locked, or my data's gone, or I got this big bill and I don't even know what the hell Bitcoin is or how to buy it and how to transfer it. And you have to go through that process, which is an aggravation of its own. I mean, is that without saying who, Jason works with the government, so I'm sure that you had some really good
yeah.
stories of either other government agencies or civilian agencies reaching out to you guys, maybe. But
Oh, there were a few government agencies that actually did try and pay. Um, won't say who they are, but yeah, that happened a few times before I think people started wising up a little bit and then realizing that hey, we shouldn't be paying this.
Yeah, man, I wish I'd have been one of the people that I had like a Bitcoin or a PayPal receipt from that showed, hey, somebody.gov.
Oh
I think
boy,
I would tweet that out. Like, hey, look what somebody paid.
be hating life, man. And I'm trying to recall some of the bigger businesses that actually um, tried to pay the actual ransom for this stuff.
Yeah, I don't recall a lot of the civilian bit. Well, not I call them civilian, but being in the healthcare field, I was definitely more focused on healthcare organizations around the country and around the world. I mean, in the UK, the biggest healthcare organization in the UK got crushed, and they paid. I mean,
Oh yeah,
they paid handsomely.
you paid dearly,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, they paid a lot of euro or whatever, but here in the U.S., I know that there was a big hospital in L.A. or close to L.A. that got hit hard, and they ultimately paid. There was one in Arkansas that paid. Um, Damn, I want to say Oklahoma, but I can't remember the fourth one is. I know that there's at least four that I can recall that actually paid. And there's probably many others that paid under the radar, that just they didn't want to make it public, but. Um,
Hmm.
Knock on wood, and I don't publicize the healthcare system I work for because being on the air and talking a little smack at times, I don't want our facilities to get targeted. So I don't publicly say where I work for that reason alone. And we're not going to publicly mention Jason's agency only because A, he probably shouldn't, and B, we don't want his agencies to be
Hmm.
targeted either because of
Uh,
us being on air. So for
well, I
those of
admit,
you that want to
man,
know where we work,
now I
uh,
can think about it now.
tough nut.
Uber was one of the ones that tried to do that.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Uber tried to pay off some ransomware, but they are far from the only ones that have. That's for sure. But that's the one that kind of sticks in my mind that I thought of recently was Uber.
Nice, but yeah, I would say that ransomware was definitely the security news story of 2017 initially. But and again, so now I'll throw you on the spot again because I think I know what my answer is going to be. But so because of all of this, what do you think the number one benefit that came out of ransomware for the business community at large, not just the IT people that work at companies, but for businesses, was there a positive benefit that came out of ransomware, do you think?
I think there's a positive spin put on this for really any agency for the fact that now you've experienced something and now you have a way to combat that with the human beings that actually click on these links. So it's something that you actually add to like a security awareness training you would do yearly. Some kind of informational part that you can give to your users to say, okay, these are the things to look out for. And it's all about learning from mistakes. Mistakes are not a bad thing. Something happens, you learn from it. If you don't, you're just repeating history.
Exactly. Well, I know that I told people that I did not warn you about these topics, and yet it's going to sound like we did because that's exactly the exact same benefit that I think I see from this year as well is that organizations are now taking the training and the security side of IT so much more importantly, or they are putting at least an appropriate level emphasis on this topic that the rest of us in the IT field are finally being able to take a deep breath and sigh and say, "Thank God you're finally giving me some money to do whatever training, or maybe I need that new tool to monitor my stuff, or whatever it is that you've been begging for the last 5 years that everybody kept saying there's not enough money in the budget for. Now there's oddly
Yeah.
enough there's enough money."
And if you don't have funding for security, I can tell you now, you better go talk to the CIO. You better talk to somebody because, it's not going to get any better. And you got to
Yeah,
have a way to combat that.
yeah, it's yeah. our organization actually, because of the aforementioned affiliated hospital getting hit, we automatically came up. We not automatically, wrong word. We surprisingly found $17,000 to purchase some third party and online training that we're able to use not just one time, but you're able to use it ongoing. So you're able to assess, um, and then train, and then test, and then circle back on a quarterly basis and reassess. And actually, I guess I can say it. So it's Wombat. There's Know Before that Mitnick is involved with, and a few other organizations, but we chose Wombat Security to do our training. And for, at a th- for th- if you buy a 3-year contract for the size of our organization, the all-you-can-eat buffet was $17,000 for us, and we
Woo.
are a nonprofit. And it was end of year because we just bought this service after demoing it, so they gave us
Mm,
some end of year discounts, right? So the sales reps could hurry up and get some last sales on the books. But
mm.
between being nonprofit end of year, 17 grand for more than 1,500 employees, and it's all you can
Mm.
eat. They've got posters you can download and
Dude, a lot of
print.
ribs, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's posters you can download and print, and anyway, whatever. Now I'm going into a sales pitch, whatever. So
Was the first drink free?
the first, that's right. I wish. I know the first
The
test we
cash bar.
did. Well, you know what? Now that you say it that way, I'm going to say we did our first test, and we targeted just leadership people, managers and above in our organization, which
Oh,
was,
you wailed.
oh, dude, and it was like 85 of us, right? 85 people, and the average score on the assessment by industry was the healthcare industry. The average score was supposed to be 82%. So it's a 55 question assessment that took like 25 minutes to just, click multiple choice assessment. And the average was 82. And we had like
Mm.
out of 80 some managers, 82% passing. So out of 80 some managers and leaders and directors and CEOs and everybody else that we hit with this thing, and we did not tell them it was coming, we had 5 that scored above 82%.
Nice.
Everybody else was anywhere between 35% and 70.
Well,
So,
those guys that were 85% or higher are probably more focused on security then.
yeah, well, they were people that were, yeah, that use like they design and create like their own SharePoint sites internally and things like that. So
Oh, there
they're
you
far
go.
more techie oriented, right? We did
Yeah.
not hit any IT people because we didn't want them to skew the results. So it was all people that are nurses and doctors even, and maintenance staff leadership, and dietary leadership, and other types of sectors like that within a hospital setting. And man, was it an eye opener, because our leadership was like, people know how to use computers. I'm like, no, they don't. They might know how to
Yeah.
turn it on and click stuff, but they have no idea what they're clicking. And after we had these assessments, and I went back and I said, more than 70% of just our leaders have no idea what they're doing. How would you extrapolate that to the other 1,500 people in the organization who
Hmm.
theoretically don't have a similar education? And if
Yeah.
more than 70% of our organization is putting us at risk,
Yeah.
what day do I get to sign the contract for this service?
Well,
I mean,
that's the other thing you got to keep in mind that um, role-based training for different roles should include security. I don't care if it's your admins or your managers or any of them. They should have at least a small grip on security, at least at the minimum.
yeah, very much so. Well, we certainly found that was not the case. So we are heading into 2018 ourselves at our
Yeah.
facilities with a renewed vigor for training and making it required. I mean, your semi-annual and annual assessments have a like 15%. Like, did you complete your security awareness quarterly trainings, and
Hmm.
did you achieve a minimum score of 80% or above? And if
Yeah.
not, your potential pay raise is hit a little bit, or your performance evaluation is going to be hit a little bit because you could not achieve these scores. So we are taking very real measured steps to make sure that people take our security awareness training that we're paying for seriously, no doubt.
Well, that's good because I think as far as an organization, everyone should take security awareness training, at least on a yearly basis. And not only that, anytime you're vetting a person or bringing them in, that should be the first thing they're doing before they even get a functional account. In a lot of cases, the places I've been, you won't even get an account until you've taken that training. Or at least if you've gotten an email address, you're getting it so you can get the link to the training, but you ought to take that training within 5 days.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
the type that the organizations that I've been in.
Well, thankfully that's where we're headed. Thank goodness, because yeah, it's scary business. So
That's
wow,
all
that's
policy.
yep. That's funny. We just spent the last 10 minutes talking about that one thing that I thought would be
Yeah.
like a 3-minute topic. So that's kind of cool. So anyway, yeah. So be that as it may, I think we both landed in the same place with what was the most important bad thing, but one of the better things that came out of that whole thing. But there's so much more in IT security that happened this year. There are things like
Oh, there
new
is.
tools and new methods and new thought processes and new ways to
Mhm.
audit things. And you and I, right before we came live on air, were talking about a baselining method that that I mean, I'm in this field. I eat, live, and breathe this stuff, and I don't do it yet, although we have been talking about doing it. So,
Yeah.
why don't you bring that topic up a little bit about baselining and the differences between maybe hardware and software?
Yeah, I could do an outline of it, and in the near future, I could probably do a more detailed um, set of events as far as that goes. But I am a heavy practitioner in doing OS baselines, and having staff understand how these OS baselines actually help prevention. These are things that you can be proactive on, that they're not going to make it impossible for somebody to hack. Okay. And don't get me wrong by making the statement that when you secure something, that it isn't, hackable. Sure, it is. But there are industry best practices that you can put in place that are going to make it a little tougher to do. And they're going to make it impossible. But things like baselines, like using CIS, which is the Center for Information, what's it? Center for Information Security. So, using baselines from CIS, roughly, you're doing a lot of what the DoD and a lot of what some federal government agencies do in that case. And you're talking about basic minimal settings. What you're doing is basically you're being prudent. You know what I mean?
Yep, yep.
And
Talk a little bit about though, like, so people might, if for those that don't do OS baselining, talk a little bit about what that does. I mean, it goes out and looks at open ports. It gives you some ideas of where to harden or maybe some leaky memory, right, or some other issues that you might not even realize are happening, right? Is that the right direction?
right. And like I said, this is a CIS does offer like guides and such that you can actually look at for this. So if you go to www.cissecurity.org, you can actually look and you can actually register. And they do have like a light version of the what they call the Syscat. The Syscat is more there's a lot more to it, but they make a lighter version that does like Windows 10, and you can kind of get an example from that. You know what I'm saying? Um, but there are things like let me see if I can go ahead and give me 1 second here.
Well, he's looking that
Okay,
up. So, okay, well, if you found it already, then I'll just skip what I was
I'm
going to
working
say.
on it
But
now.
all right, well, while he's looking that up to refresh his own memory, I'll say that we being my organization, we do hardware baselining. And for us, what that means is we're looking at, we want to know when our systems are at work, when they're working, what should I see? What's my average processor? What's my average RAM usage? What's my average hard drive spindle speeds? Things like that on our, especially in our VMware environment. So what should I see? And how we've used that in the past is we put monitors on those things. So if we get above 10% above our baseline threshold that we are expecting to see, then we're going to start looking and say, okay, why? When it alerts us, is there something going on that's causing us to hit more than 10% of what we expect? Now, sometimes it's legitimate stuff. Like sometimes an oddball backup goes a little berserk and starts eating up RAM or some, so there's legitimate reasons. But we've actually caught a ransomware attack against us within the first like 2 minutes of the attack, and we were able to stop it quickly and find that it hit like, well, in just like those couple of minutes, I guess it hit roughly 20,000 files. But in the grand scheme of things, that was easy for us to fix because our data backups are tested. So we knew we can just hit delete and recover these files quickly. I mean, that 20,000 files was less than 5 gigs of data. And I mean, we recovered from a ransomware attack in less than 15 minutes total from the time of monitoring to figuring out what it was to being completely recovered. So baselining in hardware certainly did a big deal for us. Um, and I imagine software baselining can be a very similar thing.
Yeah, I think the intention here, especially with baselining, you don't want to lock it down and make it a doorstop. Okay, that's going to be of no use to anybody. So, the intention of this is to be practical and prudent. You want to be able to provide a benefit to security. You don't want to inhibit. Uh, you don't want to inhibit any of the technology and be unacceptable in that case. So there are going to be, items. There are going to be items such as account policies, like how you're doing your password policies, how you're doing your lockouts. Do you have a threshold? Um, any local policies, like if you're going to do any audit policies, how are you saving your audits? Are you doing successes and failures? Where are you storing this? Um, are there certain ones that you want to look at successes and not necessarily failures? You don't want to overlog the system. There's going to be like user rights assignments. There's a multitude of security options, and I know a lot of the Windows folks here kind of can relate with a lot of this. Um, but it deals with like logins, um, everything from system services, things in your registry, configurations for your wireless. So there's going to be profiles for your policies, the firewalls. So if you're using a Windows firewall, your different firewalls, depending on what version of Windows 10 you might be using. And that's kind of getting off the point because this also has to do with Linux. You can do RHEL 6, RHEL 7. You can do any of your networking devices. So if you want to do Cisco ASAs or you want to do the routers, you want to do Juniper, Checkpoint, there are audits for all of these devices, and it goes much further. You can actually do software. So you can baseline your Windows Office. You can baseline Google Chrome. You can do Firefox. You can do the Edge browser. You can do IE. There's a lot to do with like TCP/IP in here that you can actually configure. The list goes on and on and on and on. But these are a lot of settings that are made so that you can take a lot of unnecessary things and either shut them down or keep them, depending on your company policy. Again, it depends. So there's a lot there.
Well, there's a lot of ways that baselining can certainly give you insight into what's happening in your organization and give you some abilities to, like you said, to lock it down, but not basically brick it either.
That's right.
Um, there's definitely a sweet spot in there somewhere, and that sweet spot's going to be a sliding scale from organization to organization. But I know
Yep.
for us, we didn't really brick anything. We closed down, because of different healthcare applications. Sometimes we use some oddball port numbers, right? So we have to open up some really
Right.
weird stuff at times, but it certainly gave us an idea of, okay, this is open. What is it open for? Oh, yeah, it's used for that
Hmm.
utility or that app, so we
Yep.
could document it better. So it
And
certainly
if you
makes
do
a
it, and
difference.
if you do it on the system versus doing it like from a firewall or a router. So you could also do your ACLs if you didn't necessarily want to do it on each system. So there's some flexibility there too.
Well, we certainly we're certainly going to be um, excited for our new systems. I don't think I've said, but we are going to an all-flash hyper-converged system that we bought um, in the first couple of months of 2018, and I would expect that our baselines to be out off the charts. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about teraflops of IOPS, and I love just saying that
Yep.
phrase. But um, versus the hundreds of IOPS that we have now, we're talking about thousands of IOPS. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what a baseline looks like compared to what our current baseline is. So
But the other point you
I'm
bring
excited.
up, and this is kind of segueing into the next thing, is that you bring up hardware monitoring, but there's also doing the audit monitoring along with the, hand in hand with the vulnerability. So, scanners such as if you were going to use Nessus or Nexpose, or if you have Retina, it depends on whichever one you have. But all of these, and even if you have a SIEM tool, you can do that as well. Like if you have Alien Vault, or there's a multitude of others. Um, but you can also monitor your baselines from that level. So once you've baselined your image or your system that you're going to use for an image, and you already have that kind of baked in, if you're not going to use group policy, which is something else altogether, because I know that there are folks that have opinion on whether or not you would bake an image in at local or use a GPO. But regardless of that, um, doing it from the scanning level where you actually use your audits there will actually show you any variances that you have on your network. So if you actually have something and you say, this is my baseline, and you have that all marked out, then you start to see variances. That's going to start to show you that somebody's putting something out here that wasn't approved. That's when you start to see degradation happening, and that's when you can kind of nip it in the bud at that time by seeing it going through the scanning process.
Yep. Yeah, we actually caught somebody dumping a boatload of. They had a bunch of videos and things that they had taken with an iPhone, and their iPhone had run out of space. That SD card was like a 64 gig, and while 64 gigs of data on an environment our size is really not that big of a deal, because it was transferring so much data so fast, it triggered our SCIM alerts that data. It looked like a data exfiltration was happening at a very
Yeah,
high
that's
rate of speed.
interesting.
So we like saw that real quick and blocked it. And then when we realized what it was, it's like, okay, you're just trying to upload, clear your phone off to your personal H drive we provide you, but it looked odd to our monitoring.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's when you start to get into the landscape of DLP at that point. So you're dealing with data loss protection. And that depends on your organization again. But there are going to be organizations that have, these policies in place where if you inserted a USB drive and it knows it's a flash drive, it's going to block it.
Yep.
or it could just audit it. You know,
Well, we
it
made some
depends.
changes based on that one time. We actually made some changes that if the destination was inbound to the server that houses our individual users' H drives, that we basically upped how much data could come inbound um, because of that reason. Like, okay, I'm exporting some data off of something legit, but we also had to kind of um, well, I forget what word I'm looking for here, but we had to kind of tweak it. There we go, to make sure that some virus wasn't coming inbound either. So we had to put some heuristic capabilities on that policy tweak. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it was interesting that we captured something like that, and had we not baselined activity first, we would not have even had that alert in place to know that something was happening. So it certainly makes a difference, no doubt about it.
Yeah. That's when you start to get into behavioral analysis. That's just a whole nother monster there.
Yep. So by the way, one thing that I thought of about our new show that just kind of came back in my mind because you just said it is
Hmm.
for those of us that follow us, and I'm gonna say it again. Bring your own security .net looks like it's going to be our domain, but I'm going to put up a counter that's going to be the Jason says it depends counter,
There you go.
and I'm going to click a little thingy during every show, and we're going to keep a tally, and we might start a contest in February
Yeah.
that if you can guess how many times by October that he says it depends, the closest one without going over is going to get, maybe we'll find one of the bigger security events like Black Hat, or, well, that's in July, so we can't do that one, but we'll find some event and we'll get you some passes to come meet us at an event and bring you as a media guest, and we'll go have some fun with that. So,
How about I
some,
just drink a shot every time I do that or something?
well, then
By
we'll
that
never
time,
get through a show.
I'll be wanting to start trouble or something by the
That's right.
time the show's over with.
That's right. We won't be able to get you through one on some of these,
Yeah,
but
good piece of me.
I think you just said it depends for the first time in the first 32 minutes, which is kind of that's probably a new record. It took you
No,
32 minutes
actually, I
to
said
say
it
it.
about 3 times already.
Well, see, I wasn't paying enough attention then. You slipped a couple by the
Yeah,
monitor
I
police.
snuck a couple
So,
in.
but yeah, we'll have to. So that'll be one of the things that we'll do next year is we'll try to find some ways
Yeah,
to
doing it
incorporate
depends o
something
meter.
stupid. That's right. It depends. Countdown.
Yeah, it
Um,
depends o meter.
but yeah, and like I said, for those folks that, and we didn't bring it up at the beginning when we were talking about all the new great things, we're going to try to incorporate ways into the new show for you all to be a part of it too. Things like live chat, so you can ask questions in real time for those of you that join us during live recordings, and um,
Absolutely.
you can, of course, you can tweet at us or email us questions or topics that you want us to cover, or if you're a content expert on something, or you feel like you are, feel free to reach out to us,
Yeah,
and we'll
yeah.
bring you
Tell
on
us
the
we're full of
show.
shit, and
Yeah, hey,
we'll
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 bring you on the
rectify.
show and interview you and let you tell us how
Yep.
awesome you are and how much we suck. We're okay with that. And then as we find different events that we might be attending ourselves, we will certainly invite those of you to come meet us, or possibly to get a chance to come for free and meet us where we can work something out. So again, next year, a lot of great stuff coming at us.
Yeah.
And Jason, I'll say this. We're now 40 minutes into this particular episode, and at the beginning, when we were talking about freestyling this particular episode and not really having an agenda in place, I wondered if we would make it to the 40-minute mark without having to cut it short.
Well, it looks
But,
like we did.
well, we're actually going to probably, I'm going to end up, we'll end up making it to 60 minutes and still not covering all the stuff that I thought at least we might cover. So, much more interesting than it boiled out to be. I thought this would be more of a silly thing, but and thankfully it's not, because I wanted to make sure that name that the show that's had my name on it for 2 years, um, I didn't want it to go out with a fizzle. So I appreciate that you were able to help me end this thing on a good note with
Yeah, man.
good
We don't need no
content.
fizzle here, man.
So good content. But so let's change a little bit and let's talk a little bit about I forget how to say it, but not things, but maybe things. And we've talked a little bit like SCIM, and we brought some of that monitoring stuff up. But was there anything in 2017 from a hardware perspective that got your attention? Some new kind of something, or a vendor building something, a new version of something? Was there anything like that that kind of got your attention at all? Anything?
The only thing I could think that I've roughly worked with lately is and I'll have someone from this company actually come out and get interviewed and let them go ahead and um, run a spiel if I can. But there's a company called Tanium. So started working with this company a little bit, um, and I got to tell you, man, they were pretty impressive because it give you a short description. Tanium's like an endpoint security for systems, but basically you can actually manage systems with this. So what it can do is it's kind of like it's a combination of many things. Like for one thing, um, you can query any of these systems that have the client on them and actually use plain English to pull your data. Like if you wanted to ask, like, uh, you know, what is the size of C on X system, and it would actually pull that information real time. And the same thing with just many things like how many laptops do I have that have critical vulnerabilities? You could actually type that in and run a real time query. I mean, sometimes you got to be a little careful depending on how many systems you have, because it can take up some network contention. But yeah, it seems like a pretty interesting product. I'm still kind of in the beginning stages with that product, but it is pretty cool that it does a lot, and there's probably a lot more than I can mention at this time. But if you ever want to look at the product, it's www.tanium.com, Tanium.
I've seen them at a couple of events that I've been at. I most recently I saw them at Black Hat. They had a booth there, as did many industry people. So I don't recall that I spent a lot of time talking to them at that particular time when I saw them.
Yeah,
I had other interviews scheduled, and I was on a kind of a time crunch. But
yeah.
um,
I mean, there's
yeah,
like a detect and response portion of it. These are like plugins. There's an asset visibility, so you can actually take collections of your assets and get that all in a nice, neat little list that you can export. Um, you can, there's just so much to it. It's a very powerful tool. I don't want to sound like I'm advertising for
I'm
them,
gonna
but
say, man, you all of a
I thought it
sudden
was interesting.
we need to reach out to them and ask them for commissions or something. Because man, you just not kidding. So
But
um,
yeah, I can get probably one of the higher up like technical guys to
nice.
probably come in and interview.
Nice. And I think for me, with along the lines of what's new and exciting, it's not new, but for us, it was new, and that was the hyperconverged infrastructure stuff. We were really very late to that party. Now in the healthcare field overall, it, hyperconverged infrastructure has less than 2% penetration U.S. wide. So to the healthcare field, it's very new and almost unheard of. And to us, we had actually signed a deal with a vendor to buy a traditional SAN switch server environment to replace our current environment. And at the last minute, we bumped into a vendor at an event that was a hyper-converged vendor, and we're like, "What?" And then we saw their presentation. We're like, holy crap, how do we not know about this stuff? And then we're like, well, let's bring in three of them, right? Let's go. And we literally brought two different vendor stacks in house, and we put some VMs on there. And in one case, we put live VMs. We transferred them over. Now we had our secondary data center on a hot standby in case these things took a crap, but
Yeah.
we put live VMs on this infrastructure, and I gotta tell you, it was amazing at how much performance difference there was, how much everything, and just the ability to go from a one-click restore. So in
Mm.
our environment, we basically bought 6 nodes, 3 for one data center, 3 for the other. But they're on a 40 gig switch now, or they will be in January, and they're going to be a hot site. So a full and complete failure of any component, whether it be hardware based, software based, inside the VM itself, like an OS based problem or something like that, would be less than 60 seconds from end to end of failure to recovery, so that
Sweet.
most users won't even know. We are actually going to be rebuilding our entire disaster recovery plan to include an entire organization wide down RTO, and the RTO will be 1 hour or less for the entire 64 terabyte organization that we have. And we bought 95 terabytes of space so that we have room to grow. But we'll be able to recover the entire environment in less than 60 minutes. So
Mm.
everything's changing for us. I mean, right now we're on a 3-day RTO, and that's only based on the assumption that we'll have available parts that can be overnighted to us. If we
Yeah.
ran into a snafu like that, we would go beyond 3 days currently. So to go
Mm.
from where we are to 60 minutes or less for an entire
That's pretty
organization,
good.
it's
That's like
amazing.
99.99%, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, it puts us on par
Plus
with
30
with
minutes.
most data. Right. Right. But it puts us on par with many, if not most, data centers, and certainly at an enterprise level, it certainly puts us on par with anybody. I mean, it's amazing. And in the healthcare field, it doesn't put us on par with anybody. We're going to be the industry leader, not the on par with anybody when it comes to the healthcare field. So we are certainly already planning many exposés, if that's the right word, where once we're up and running and we've got 6 months under our belt, where we're going to allow our vendor to invite others to come use us as their modeling tool,
That's
and
awesome.
for that they'll give us some down the road discounts and things like that. But
Well, let me
yeah,
ask you a
man.
question. So, do you find it a challenge to try and implement new technology if it's not like HIPAA compliant, blessed by high tech, that type of thing?
Yeah, because we subscribe to all of that. I mean, again, not wanting to say where I work, but we have some state level things that we comply with. We follow the NIST guidelines, by
Mm.
and large, the framework,
Yeah.
and then high tech. And then there's a couple other smaller things that, because of um, applications that we use, we follow theirs. But of what we bought, it is all already has reached certain certification levels. It's been HIPAA certified. It's been, I forget the ISO number. I want to say 9002, but I might be wrong there. But they've gained compliance standards because it's not new. I mean,
Yeah.
hyperconvergence is like what 2 year old industry, um, but some major players have brought them on board,
Yeah.
and so they're not completely new. They're just new to our particular industry.
But I
So,
think there's other industries
but
that are a little faster and looser than, the medical industry
yeah.
or the federal government, which, they can be a little behind the curve
Yeah.
sometimes as well.
Well, now we are too. Now our particular hospital system, oddly enough, for many reasons, the stuff that I literally have in my data center right now is 12 calendar years old, and
Oh,
we've been buying extended warranties from the vendor we bought it from for the last 8. So it is so old that we've band-aided on top of the band-aids and then put some duct tape on some of those
Hmm.
to keep things running because of, again, leadership issues and whatever financial issues that we might have had years ago. But now we got new leadership. The hospital's been sound financially for years. People are like finally putting importance back into IT for us, and we ran with it. I mean, I got to tell you, we've got just shade over $1 million spent this year in IT infrastructure. We bought all new switches. I mean, the
Yeah.
slowest switch in our environment is a 1 gig, file switch, and with everything else is on at least a minimum of 10 gig uplinks. And
Yeah.
our SAN to SAN data center to data center uplinks are on 40 gig fiber across a very large distance. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we went from 0 to 100 in 5 months, whereas for 15
Yeah.
years we were going backwards. So yes,
Yeah.
we are usually notoriously slow too, um, but we got lucky that all the stars aligned for the right leadership, the right dollars, the right technology to all finally, and the right events like we talked about. All these different hospitals and other places getting hit with ransomware, and
Oh
these
yeah.
guys finding out that they were down for like 4 to 6 days. The one hospital was down for 7 days in a row. Got back
Oh,
up. They got back online for like half a day and went down again for 4 more days. So when all of
that's
that
gotta
started,
hurt.
yeah, when all of that started happening, we're like, how long could we withstand outage like that before we just
Yeah.
fall apart?
I
And
mean, it's one of those situations where it's, do I have a reason not to do this?
right, exactly. So, so yeah, we are notoriously usually slow, but for us, the stars have just aligned in the last 5 or 6 months to just be perfect in my eyes. And now I get to reap the benefits of next year being pretty freaking awesome. I hope. We'll see. I imagine there'll be some pitfalls, but
Yeah.
at the end of it, I think we'll land on our feet in a very good position to really be an industry leader, at least in healthcare, when it comes to data storage and data recovery and things like that. Um, we'll see how the security posture grows with it. If it makes a difference, that'll be
Yeah.
interesting too.
Hmm.
So again, we're about 52 minutes into a 60-minute episode. We've done well. I'm Dave, the IT guy, or at least I will be for another 7.5 minutes, and then I'm not going to be him anymore unless you start listening to the new podcast. And I'm going to take a month off before I start the new stuff, so it'll
Yeah.
be easily February before Dave, the IT guy, comes back. And when I do come back that way, it's going to be all about consumer tech type stuff, and it might even be a once every 2 or 3 weeks. It'll be very not standard time
Hmm.
frame, just because I can only deal with so much consumer level tech before I get bored. What I'm really going to focus on, I think, are things that like my neighbors or my family talk to me about, to where I think, oh yeah, maybe other people might be interested, or if I see that some hot off the shelf item has a real major security flaw or something stupid about it that,
All you got to do is just pull up any IoT, man. It can
yeah,
keep you going till
yeah.
2020.
Well, that's what I don't want to do is, everything like that, because it'll be the same answers all the time. Nope, don't buy that. They didn't vet their process. Nope, don't buy that. Yep, you're buying a $29.99 Wi-Fi router, and you didn't want to spend $129.99 on that Wi-Fi router. There's a
And
reason for
now it
that.
talks back to a foreign country.
That's right. There's a reason you spent $30, and so I think that the answers in the consumer grade market are relatively always the same. You will
Get
get
what
what
you
you
pay
pay
for.
for. Exactly right. So I think that's why I'll get bored quickly, and this particular topic will not go well or not go often. Um, so I will definitely pick and choose my spots and my topics. So Dave the IT guy will be more of a fun thing, hit or miss, but bring your own security. The BYOS show for Jason and I will be far more exciting. far more relevant,
Yeah.
and far more value when it comes to CPEs and CEUs and LMNOPs and CIOs and every other alphabet thing that we come up with. So
Yep.
I'm
And that way you can
I'm
listen to
excited.
it on your commute to work because I know a lot of folks have that 1 hour commute or more. And I feel you because I do over an hour myself,
Yeah, well, you
just
guys
one
in
way.
DC, I would say you guys in DC, you drive an hour to get like 50 feet or some nonsense. Um,
No, it's roughly about I'd say about 28 miles. Takes about an hour and a
Man, that's crap. I
half.
live 36 miles from where I work. Now I live in Cincinnati, so, but I live about 36 miles from where I work, and I can get there in under. I can get there right about 35 minutes. Now I'm a little of a
Ah.
lead foot. I speed a little bit, but I'm on the highway the whole way, and there's nobody. Like in the direction I go in the morning and the direction I come back at night, the traffic's
Yeah.
always going the opposite way. So, yeah,
Well,
I'm.
that's the other thing you relish for. Like for me, the holidays, like right before the holidays. Then it takes me, 35 minutes to get to work because everybody's, I'm the schmuck still going into work while everybody else is, taking off for the holidays and this type of thing right before the holidays. That's the best time to drive in. It's like, you know, I almost just want to do it. I want I want to drive those days in because they're just so easy.
Well, unless you live in LA. I mean, did you see all the traffic for Thanksgiving where they were like hours back up on the I-5 the Wednesday
Oh,
before or the Tuesday before? That was stupid.
oh, hell to the no, man. I ain't doing that.
Yeah, who drives in that shit? I don't know. Not me. Cincinnati, we've got our own like stupidity when it comes to being on the roads. Like, God knows if it like a raindrop, there's going to be like 500 accidents and people are going to drive 20 miles an hour on an open highway. But so we have our own stupidity to deal with as well.
Well,
But
I
by
think
and
if it still
large,
makes you happy at the end of the day and you can, sit in a car for several hours, it is what it is, man.
that's right. Catch up on Bring Your Own Security podcast
Right?
and listen to us and then listen to a little bit of music and get home and be in a zen state of mind. You will
Yeah,
know all things IT security that you ever needed to know. Or you might call in and teach us a thing or two. So whatever
there you
works.
go.
Whatever works. All right. Well, we're coming upon the end. And actually, now that I'm 2 minutes out, it actually feels a little bit more weird than I thought it would. So I did not say thanks ahead of time, but I want to take this last time to say thank you to my sponsors that's been with me all year. So there's been a lot, but Disney has been a great sponsor of mine. The 1-800 Got Junk people have been great for me this year. Um, who else? My gosh, off and on. I haven't had everybody for the whole year, but GoDaddy sponsored me for a little bit, although I didn't get the cool race car uniform like Danica Patrick did. Um,
Oh, we'd have to get a picture of that if that
yeah,
was the case.
that's right. But yeah, I had some great sponsors this year, off and on. And for those of you that I'm not saying thank you now, it's only because I'm brain cramping and not because you're not appreciated. So thank you. We might reach out to you again in 2018 for our new show. Hopefully you're still interested. But if not, you were very well appreciated for this year for all that you did for me. And I want to make sure that I say thank you enough to all of them. And thank you to everybody that's taking this show from a daydream of mine um, almost 2 years ago and bringing me to a point where I average 88,000 downloads per episode. I mean, it's been an amazing ride. And for me to go out to some of these events and people hear my name and be like, "Oh, I hear you all the time," and for me to get a black hat and have CEOs of companies tell me that they download my podcast and actually show it to me on their iPhones and things was just amazing. So,
Hmm.
so thank you to all of you guys. Jason, I want to say thank you for I mean, you and I have known each other a little bit.
Yeah.
I've known your wife for much longer, but the fact that you are willing to jump in and start this whole new thing with me is appreciated as well, and certainly a
Yeah,
new
no
direction and
problem.
more fun. So thanks to you, thanks to everybody else. This is it. 30 seconds. I'm done. So He's Jason. I'm Dave. Look
Yes,
for us in
sir.
2018, and we'll be tweeting and letting everybody know when to look for us live. So thanks again, everybody. This is it. I am Dave, the IT guy, and I am signing off. Good night.
See ya.